Hi, I'm Jason with Global Finishing Solutions, and today we're going to do a little video for you on some tips and tricks for cleaning your booth. A lot of shops have downtime right now. Great time to go through your booth and make sure everything's clean. First, I just kind of want to go through the main questions I get pretty commonly out in the industry, so dive into those right away. The first is, how often should I clean my booth? And this is probably the most frequent question I get. So it depends on what you're talking about. There's things you should be doing every day. There's things you should be doing every week, things you should do every month, every quarter, and every year. We do have available a maintenance schedule. A lot of times this is in the manual that comes with your booth. You can also reach out to us directly and we can email one to you. But the nice thing about this sheet is it has everything broken up into daily, monthly, and yearly. And we can go a little bit beyond that, even into quarterly. So just a few high-level things I'll touch on quick is filters, obviously, that needs to be changed more than anything. Filters should be changed as needed. So some shops run 8 hours a day, maybe they paint 2 or 3 cars a day, and then there's shops that run anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a day. A few that even run pretty much nonstop with just a couple hour breaks in between shifts. And they're painting 10 to 20 cars a day. So the amount of time they're going to have to change their filters is going to be completely different. Your average shop where you're doing 4 to 6 cycles a day, typically your exhaust filters are going to last anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, depending on what filters you're going to use. But then you have your intake filters, which are up in the actual plenum. Those typically are only changed a couple times a year. We also have filters in the AMU itself, so the air makeup unit, the heater for your booth. A lot of people forget that there's filters in there, especially if they're not on some sort of maintenance program. Those need to be changed almost the same time you're changing your ceiling filters. There's other filters to consider too. If you have any type of blower system in your booth for drying water-based paint, there's going to be filters that filter that air as well. So make sure you know your booth is the first thing. Read through that manual. Don't just leave it in the corner and let it get dirty. Read through it and see what filters you have. It'll have recommendations in there and when to change them. And then whatever exhaust filters you're buying, be sure to check with the manufacturers of those as well, because depending on their capture rate and everything else, there's going to be a huge time difference in how long those are actually good for. So beyond that, another good daily, weekly type thing is actually cleaning the booth. And by that I mean cleaning overspray off the walls, cleaning up the floors. There's a lot of good ways to do that. I get asked my opinion a lot. There's a lot of stuff out there that works. When it comes to actually cleaning the walls of your booth, what I recommend is your booth should always be running, for starters. If your booth isn't running and you do a lot of sweeping, all those particles are just floating around in the air. Once you go out of the booth, they're just going to settle right back down. If you do it when the booth is running, yes, those particles are going to get into your filters, but that's the best place for those to go. That dirt is already in your booth. The dust isn't going to clog up filters nearly like paint does, paint overspray, so don't think you're ruining your filters. So turn your booth on, let it get in full operation. For the walls, I typically grab a soft bristled broom. Even one of the big 2 or 3 foot ones is fine, and just sweep those walls. You can do this every morning if you want. Some people do it once a week, which is still fine. Floors as well, if you're not using any kind of floor covering and it's just spent, those should be swept daily, and then once a week I typically like to wet the floor down and squeegee it out to make sure any other residue is taken out of there. We do recommend protecting your walls and the floor of your booth. One good way for the floor is pig mat. This stuff is everywhere now. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. There's a bunch of different colors out there. Do not use carpet in your booth. For whatever reason, this is getting popular. If you use carpet in your paint booth, you're probably violating fire code. That is not rated for a hazardous area, especially one where you're vaporizing flammable chemicals. So do not use carpet. Use something that's meant for your booth. Prices have come down on this stuff over the years. Pig mat is great because it's a little bit thicker. I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but It's a little bit spongy, so it's nice for a painter to walk on instead of the plain concrete. Obviously, if you're using a fully graded floor, you're not going to be able to sweep, clean that, or put protectant on it. But anytime you have cement in there, it's good to get it covered. Booth coating is nice because you can, pig mat is nice because you can vacuum it. They make another product called particle control. What you do is use a pump sprayer, similar to this one here. And all you do is you fill that with the particle control. You pump it up, and then there's a little wand. In the morning, you can give that a nice mist coat through the whole booth, nice and quick. And then at the end of the day, you can vacuum that up. So every day you have a fresh start. I don't know about you, but as a painter, I hated buffing. This is a great way to help eliminate buffing. Now, when it comes to a coating for the walls, a lot of people use 3M Dirt Trap. That stuff works great. If you can do a spray-on peel-off type coating, that's even better. The reason is that's going to lock in that booth, especially if it's brand new. It's a good idea to put something on it right away and protect it. It'll save you a lot of cleaning later. GFS, here we make a couple different ones that you can use. I usually recommend the water-based. We have a white water-based one that can get sprayed on the walls. There is a couple different ways of doing this. You can spray it on really heavy, and then every 3 to 6 months you can peel that off and reapply. The other way some people do it is spray it a little bit thinner, and then you can reapply over the top after a few months to get a nice bright white start again. You can usually only do that 2 to 3 times. We do have the tech sheet for that. The biggest thing to watch is your mill thickness. Once you get overly thick, you do not want to reapply, and it'll have the cutoff point where you should peel that. And then we also have a clear one, and this is for protecting your lights. So any of your light lenses, your windows, you can spray that on. Same thing, spray on, and it peels off really easy. But that's another good way to protect your booth and keep dirt down. Another question I get asked a lot is on the actual grading. Should I be cleaning my grading? Whenever you change your exhaust filters and you lift that grading up, and we do have a tool for that a lot of people don't know about, so I'll show you that as well. There's actually a great tool that assists to lift it so you're not bending over and breaking your back pulling those heavy grates out. But when you take those grates out, sometimes there's a piece of filter stuck to it. You do want to clean that off. You can pressure wash your grates if you want. A lot of people do it. Some do it every time they change their exhaust filters. Some do it annually or semi-annually. Any of those is fine. Any dirt and dust that's down there, it's not going to find its way into your paint job, but it does help you get more out of your filters by keeping those airways clean. So I do get a lot of questions. There's some questions I don't get that I wish I would. I've only got it from a few people, and that is, what are the pans underneath the filters in the exhaust pit with the holes in them? So those are diffuser trays, and those are actually very crucial to balancing the airflow of your booth. When your booth was first installed, the diffusers on the intake and exhaust should have been placed in a very specific way to make sure you have good balanced airflow through your booth. So when some people get into cleaning their own booths, they don't pay attention to those pans, and when they take those out, they may not get put back in the same order. So a lot of times each pan is different. It'll have different size holes in it, allowing different amounts of air to come through. When you first pull out your filters, I always recommend taking a picture of those pans so you know how they're arranged, or at least go through and number every pan. So that way you have an exact layout of where they're supposed to go to make sure your booth gets back to proper operating airflow. I also get asked about the pit itself and cleaning the pit. There's a million ways to do this too. You don't need to do it often. Once a year is probably enough. Unfortunately for that one, you just got to kind of get down and dirty. You got to grab some scrapers, get in there, kind of chisel off whatever's stuck to the sides, sweep the whole thing out. If it's going to sit for a day or so, you can even wet it down and squeegee it out. You are going to have to contain that water though. That's probably considered hazardous material, and those codes vary widely throughout the US and Canada. So be sure to check with local code to know you're disposing of that water the right way. Next thing I get is the ROI on booth cleaning. So why is it so important? Well, for one, it's going to extend the life of your booth. So properly cleaning it, changing your exhaust filters on time, that's going to keep your fans clean, Your motors are going to run a little bit smoother. You're going to get a longer life out of every other filter in your booth if you're changing and cleaning those on time. A lot of booths recirculate, so the air that's in here is going to go back through that burner again. So those other filters are going to plug up if you're peeling exhaust filters back to extend life out of them and things like that. It's just bad practice. So make sure you're changing those when you should. It's going to save you money on those parts. The biggest thing for me as a painter, I mean, it's great to save your equipment. That's always a plus. But as a painter, buff time is the biggest thing. Cleaning your booth properly, putting good filters in there, following the right steps is going to save you a lot of time in buffing. So make sure you're pre-cleaning your vehicles too before they get in the booth. That helps keep that dirt down. And then one other big thing is keep your booth running when you're loading your booth. Believe it or not, that's a cleaning tip. A lot of people shut their booth off, they open their doors, and that's when they pull a vehicle in. Booths auto balance for the most part, most booths on the market. Pretty much all of ours do at GFS. So what that means is when we open those doors, the booth is positively pressured. So if there's any dirt in front of the door, somebody sanding out there, that air is going to push all that dirt away. So when you pull that car in, it's coming in the cleanest way possible. If you shut the whole booth off and then you swing those doors open, you're creating a temporary vacuum. And when you open those doors, since that surface area is expanding, it's going to suck in whatever's right outside. And all that's going directly into your paint area. So that's another quick tip on how to get cleaner paint jobs and extend the clean time of your, or the clean time frame that your booth is running. So booth maintenance is incredibly important. Remember, there's maintenance schedules out there for our specific booths. If you have a different brand of booth, reach out to your manufacturer. They'll have a specific one for you. We can also send you a general one, but it's always good to have the proper one. I do get a lot of questions on booth maintenance and booth cleaning. Hopefully I've answered some of those for you today. If you have more, never hesitate to reach out. There's no stupid questions. This is very crucial to keeping your booth running right, keeping your paint jobs clean, keeping the quality of your work high. So don't take those things lightly. Reach out to us if we haven't answered your question, and we'll make sure we take care of that for you.